A question I get asked more than any other: how much does a pet reptile cost? Well, it depends on species. But what if I told you some of the most expensive species used to be the cheapest? Today we're talking about the top 5 expensive species that used to be cheap. My name's Adam, this is Erwin, you're watching Wickens Reptiles, stick around. This is going to be a fun one. I think it really depends where you live, because when I did my research, I realized there's a big difference between even where I live in Canada and my neighboring United States, and then if you go to Europe, completely different prices. So we'll try to make this global rather than just for the US. And also you'll notice there's some trends, especially with some of the ones later in the list. The prices go up and down all willy-nilly like, and some of them are ridiculously expensive. So let's get started. Oh, and sorry about the echo. I haven't sound treated the room yet, but the new reptile room is coming along and I wanted to be in here. This looks so nice. So let's start it off. Number 5, blue-tongue skinks. Now there's two main type of two super common types, which are the northerns and the Indonesians. So this is an Indonesian and this is a northern. Indonesians come from, well, Indonesia and surrounding areas, and northerns come from Australia. So normally the Australian species are a little bit more expensive, but even Indonesians back in the day, I'm talking about say 2008, 2009, these animals were $100 at PetSmart, or you could find them for $50 from a breeder, sometimes as low as 40. Now, if you can find one for under $350, you're doing really good. Blue-tongue skinks used to be cheap and now they're expensive, and I really can't think of an animal that came quicker to my mind when someone suggested this video than blue-tongue skinks. Now, a big difference, well, the two main difference is the popularity. Now, when I was first getting into reptiles in the late part of the 2000s, let's say, or when I first started owning reptiles anyway, I noticed that the popularity started to go up. And by the time I started to look for one, because I've done enough research, say 2013, 2015, somewhere around there, I noticed the price was crazy. And then 2019, when I first got mine, the price had jacked up maybe 4 or 5 times the price. So regularly you'll see Indonesians, just regular, no more, kind of regular Irian Jayas for $350. That's pretty common on Morph Market. This is in Canada, the US. The UK, I think, is pretty similar as well in parts of Europe. If you go to Australia, it's hilarious because the northerns are so cheap, and so are even like shinglebacks, which here, by the way, are thousands of dollars. There they find them in their gardens. It's wild. The northerns, there's like all these crazy xanthics and sunsets and albinos and all these crazy ones that look super duper cool. They kind of look like shaved ferrets in a way. I love them. I think they're awesome. And that's one of the things that has made the price go crazy, is the fact that there's so many more different varieties to choose from. But either way, if you want to know more about them, there's a care guide right here. I love these guys. One of my dream species. And Erwin, like as you can see, he kind of chills. He huffs and puffs, but he's got a blue tongue. He's really handsome. For my next trick, number 4, I'll pull a cat out of a hat.
Is this a cat in a hat?
I'm just kidding, it's a tortoise in a shell. Tortoises, this is weird because if you're in the US, you're thinking, what are you talking about, dude? I can find sulcutas at my neighborhood SPCA for free. Well, in Canada, in the UK, parts of Europe, you can't. This is not a thing. You cannot just find a sulcata for cheap. That doesn't exist. Even sulcutas are $500+. I'm talking about babies for $550 all day long, no problems, will sell out here in Canada. And I imagine in the northern US too, but of course Morph Market is a thing in the US and you can just ship all willy-nilly. Do you have any idea how lucky you are? You can just ship all willy-nilly. Where with redfoots like this, we're talking about sometimes $1,000. Now you might get a good deal and find a baby for $550. But if you want an adult like this, it might be $1,000. Now just disclaimer, you're seeing some weird stuff going on with the shell. The owner before me, a dog attacked it. Anyway, he's fine. This is Blastoise, doing great so far. Tortoises are freaking amazing. Now he is trying to walk. I'll let him walk around on the floor in a second here. But just for the example, redfoots. These used to be $100. I would see them all over the place on Kijiji especially, which is the Canada's version of Craigslist, which is where I get most of my animals, by the way. And these were rehomed for like $100 all the time. Even breeders would be cheaper, say $200 or $300. Now, I don't know if I've ever seen one for under $550, and it seems the price keeps climbing. There's popularity, these guys breed slowly, it takes a while for them to reach sexual maturity, and for that reason, there's just more demand than there is supply, which is going to be a common theme because that's how things work. So of course it depends on the species. In the US, you can find sulcatas for free, even redfoots for $150 for a baby, and then you get up to things like pancake, Indian stars, Galapagos. Like there's a scale, right? There's some tortoises that still sell for tens of thousands of dollars, but these guys, well, they're a heck of a lot more expensive than they used to be in a lot of parts of the world. Number 3, something I beat to death on this channel, but I don't care because they're so awesome. Durmall's boas. Now I'm not holding one because there are rats and all I fed the snakes before I did this. But regardless, Durmall's boas are amazing. I know I talk about them too much, so I'll keep it short and sweet. But when I did the research for this video, and I've known that the price is going up, people tell me all the time, and it's maybe in part because of channels like this one and Clint's and other bigger channels, which have really skyrocketed the popularity of them. And again, because they're a boa species that gives live birth and takes a while to get to sexual maturity and doesn't have tons of babies, the demand is outweighing the supply. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is when I started getting into these, and I'm talking about 2019, so not even that long ago, like a few years ago, 3 years ago, I bought my first one for $250 with the enclosure and all the furnishings, okay? Now, the cheapest one I found on Morph Market was $450, and they're going all the way up to $800 or $900. So we're talking crazy price increase in just a couple of years. This is wild to me. Now, I do think this is going to go down. I think if I had to predict, 2024 is when you're going to see the price go down because the demand will kind of waned off a little bit. Everyone who I need to get one will either still want one, but some of those people were just kind of like, it was a fad to them. And the main part here is that the supply is going to be bolstered enough to fit the demand, and therefore the prices are going to go down, which you're going to see in our next entry has already realized. With that said, if I had to get rid of my entire collection and start over from scratch, a Durmall's boa would be an animal that I definitely keep in my collection. They are big. When I say big, I mean not so big that you need a second person feel secure. We're talking about 4 to 6, maybe 7, sometimes up to 9 feet, but this is rare. And in my experience, the two that I have that are full grown are right around 6-ish feet. And then I've got a baby, which is growing really well. I guess sub-adult now or juvenile. And the reason I'm not holding one when there's rats in the room is because they are crazy eaters. I love the way they eat. These guys are garbage disposals. If you stick a rat in there, you don't have to warm it up. You don't have to make it dance. It doesn't matter. They'll just grab a hold of it. Ball pythons are kind of like divas. Durmall's boas are not. Plus, the care is pretty easy. I mean, they're going to be on the ground mostly, so you don't need to give them tons and tons of height, although you can if you want. The humidity isn't crazy. It's kind of a lower temperature than a lot of other boas. Durmall's boas are freaking amazing. I love ground boas, and Durmall's boas, by far, are my favorite. Okay, the last two on the list are the one that I am really excited about. These are the ones that I thought of immediately. Number 2, Mexican black king snakes. Now, Mexican black king snakes, why are you hiding behind my head? Come here. These used to be garbage animals. Someone said it to me like that. I don't think any animals are garbage. Animals. Any animals are garbage. I don't think that, obviously. Animals are animals. It doesn't matter if they're $5 or $5,000. They're all alike. They're all the same to me. But someone said that to me, and it made me think, when you say a garbage animal, what do you mean? People would literally give them away because no one would buy them. No one cared. No one was interested. But now everyone loves them. They were called for a short time the poor man's indigo snake. Now, eastern indigos are one of the most sought after snakes that there are, period. They're a big colubrid in the Drymarchon family. Super smart, black, big, eat really well, just amazing. But they are expensive and they have been for a while. So a cheaper option, people have kind of figured out that Mexican black king snakes are a better option or a cheaper option. Not better, but cheaper. They are smaller, it's a little bit different. Their eating habit is ridiculous, by the way. If you're gonna stick your hand in the enclosure with a Mexican black king snake, be careful. They think everything is food. But people realize this. There wasn't enough demand because people stopped breeding them because it wasn't profitable. And all of a sudden there's all this demand and there's no supply. And that always jacks up the price like you can't believe. So an animal that used to be given away for free or sold for 20 or 30 or 40 bucks at most, we're talking about at most as an adult, I'm talking about maybe 10, 15 years ago, now are like 400 bucks. or so I thought. If I see them in Canada, they're about 400, 500, sometimes a little bit more, but I checked on Morph Market and I talked to some of my American friends who actually breed these things, and they inform me because the market is kind of not as crazy as it was before, and there's enough supply to fill the demand, unlike, say, 2 years ago, the price has dropped. So you can buy babies for $250 quite regularly, even sexed babies, not unsexed babies. You know what you're getting. You can buy a pair for $500 basically all day long on Morph Market. Now you'll have to raise them up. I think it's about 3 years till sexual maturity with a Mexican Black King, but either way, you can get your hands on one for under $300. And this is what I was saying with the Dumerals boas, where Dumerals boas now are like at peak. I think they're right at peak right now. I think in 2 or 3 years, you're not going to see them anymore above $300 for babies that aren't a morph, right? As if morphs start to come in, that's a different thing, but I'm talking about normals. Just like Mexican Black Kings, if you told me a year ago I'd be able to buy one for $200 or $250, I would have said you're crazy because I knew what the market was. Okay, and number one, and this is one that I didn't think of, and I actually had to pull something out of the memory bank to even remember because it's been so long since they've been cheap. Emerald Tree Boas. Now you might be thinking, especially if you're under the age of 30, what the heck are you talking about? These things have always been expensive. But I remember watching a Dave Coffin video with Tom Wiedner, who has been breeding these things since the 70s, and he was asked, how much did you buy this pair of Amazon basins for? And he said something like a couple $100 a piece. He mentioned you could buy certain individuals as adults for $25 or $50 back in the 70s. Now, if you know before I tell you, you're scratching your head and going, that's unbelievable, I wish I had a time machine. Because an Amazon basin Tree Boa now might go for $12,000 or more dollars. In this video that I watched, I'll link it below. I never plug random channels, but it's Dave. I mean, Dave's awesome. This was a great video. Tom said, if I remember correctly, he said that he would sell the one animal that he had for about 20 grand, 17 to 20 grand. So these are huge investments. These are crazy investments and one of my bucket list animals to have eventually. Now the Amazon basins are different than the ones that you'd find in, say, maybe a pet store 10 years ago for $400, $200, $400 back in the day. They're more expensive now, even for the regular ones. Now the reason that basins, the Amazon basin Emerald Tree Boa, are more expensive is because they are bigger, they're more beautiful, in my opinion, and the opinion of many, obviously, driving the price, and they're a little bit more docile. So Emerald Tree Boas get a bad rap along with tree pythons and Amazon tree boas and a lot of arboreal snakes as being nippy and striky, and they've got the biggest teeth of any non-venomous snake, period. So not something fun to get bit by, but the Amazon basins seem to have a more puppy dog, mellow type personality. So if you follow this channel long enough, and I am ever able to afford it, I will definitely own an Amazon basin. It is my dream reptile of dream reptiles, besides the rock iguanas, which we've talked about in a million other videos that just are illegal in Canada. I'm coming USA, I'm coming for your rock iguanas someday, I promise. But anyway, I'll keep this one short and sweet, super amazing, absolutely beautiful animals. It just blows my mind because I wasn't around in the 70s, right? I was born in the 90s. I had no idea that these used to be cheap. It blows my mind. I watched this video 3 times because this guy's collection was absolutely amazing. Anyway, I think that's it. Do you guys want to see the reptile room? Should we do a reptile room tour? It's almost ready. I just have to sound treat it so it's not so echoey, and then we're kind of good to go. Anyway, I want to say thank you. If you don't mind, hit subscribe or like, or if you like the video, leave a comment. Whatever it is that you do to support this channel, we appreciate it. It does so much for us. And it just takes a couple seconds of your time. So thank you. You are changing lives. Diamond is a superstar now. Or at least you think so. And as always, a special thank you to the Patreon supporters. You guys are amazing. You've seen parts of this reptile room that nobody else has. You know about animals in my collection nobody else does. A whole bunch of extra perks and discounts on the merch and extra videos and a whole bunch of things for as little as $1 a month. And because I do videos twice a week, that means that I'll see you on Monday.